Hey, welcome back. Welcome. I'm Danielle. Welcome to the channel. Let's take a break from all the political stuff going on and get into some true crime. Kouri Richins is back on the docket. Kouri Richins is the Kamas mother of 3 young boys and wife to Eric Richins, whom was found unalive in his home early March 4th, 2022. In our last video, we discussed Kouri the night of the incident and detectives Driscoll and Hoffmeyer. Remember those names. Kouri, in a written statement on the night of the incident, wrote and told the detectives that she returned to her bedroom after spending half of the night with one of her boys due to sleep issues. And when she returned at about 3 a.m., Eric was cold to the touch. But it was later determined that Eric had 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system, which officials said had been ingested orally that evening. Okay, now to the good part. Kouri on April 19th emailed the investigators, Driscoll and Hoffmeyer, to provide clarification on some points in the case, specifically honing in on her exotic vacations. And prior to that email, she sent another one. So we're going to go over both emails tonight. So buckle up and prepare for a rocky ride through the mountains of Utah. So the first email is dated Monday, April 17th, 2023, 9:21 p.m. to Chad Hoffmeyer and Jeff O'Driscoll. Subject, clarification. Hey! Exclamation. After you guys left Friday, I was trying to make sure dates were as accurate as possible, but ... I always feel like something was last year and it was actually several years ago. Crying, laughing face. Anyway, you asked me when my doctor had prescribed the quetiapine. I believe I told you a few years before Eric passed. However, I emailed my doctor today to get a specific date, and this was her response. ... I suppose it was attached. I don't even know if this matters for anything, but it was bothering me. Crying, laughing face. Also, Eric's company was started in 2010, not 2012. I think I might have said 2012. That's when we got married, LOL. Again, none of this probably matters, but it was bothering me. ... That was the first email from Kouri Richins to Detective Hoffmeyer and O'Driscoll. However, let's read the email that got her arrested. Sent Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 3:32 p.m. Subject again, clarification. Hey there! I thought I would clarify some other items on your list that you spoke to blank about. The beginning of February last year, my kids had a soccer tournament in Mesquite. The day before we left, February 2nd, 2022, I tested positive for COVID. I have attached a picture of my test on my kitchen counter from when I first found out. That's photo number 1. I had sent it to my mom and Eric to let them know because I was just around both of them. Eric was the coach of the soccer team, and I'm the annoying mom on the sideline that never stops yelling. Happy face with the winking eye and the tongue sticking out. We don't miss games or tournaments. We are a huge soccer family. When we found out that I had COVID, I didn't want to miss the soccer tournament, nor did I want to get my kids sick. So I stayed at Casablanca. I didn't want to risk getting my boys ill during the tournament and then not play well. I bought a box of home tests with me to test every day so I could either join the boys staying at my father-in-law's house or at least be with them during the game. Casablanca is about 5 minutes away from the soccer field. Actually, here's a picture of the room number I stayed in. I had taken a picture of it for my mom and Eric. I was still positive every day. Pictures attached. I would take pictures of my test and send to Eric and say, still positive. You can check Eric's phone for this. I stood on the sidelines wearing a mask and not interacting with anyone. Happy to get other soccer parents to attest to this. Eric had gotten COVID after we got home from Mesquite. You asked Blank about any exotic vacations I've taken since Eric's passing. I went on 2 trips last year. One, my kids tried out at a soccer camp in SLC to qualify to play in Spain in June, and both my kids made it. So yes, I took them to Spain in 2022. I have attached their invitation letters. Oh, Kouri, no more Spain for you. Sidebar. While no one can compare to Sarah Boone, Kouri Richins really reminds me of Sarah. The both of them have a lot of characteristics that are the same.
Know that.
I don't.
Also, Eric and I went to Mexico every year, sometimes twice. We traveled a lot. We have taken the boys to Mexico a few times. We like to go in January. However, January of 2022, we could not go because Eric had his hunting trip to Mexico of 2 weeks. It was already planned and it was just too much that month. But this is not new for us to go to Mexico or for us to go out of the country or on a vacation with our kids. I took my kids and my mom. They came with me in August 2022 to Mexico. As I hope you understand, the months prior to this since Eric's death have been very hard to deal with. No, I have never been to the Key West or the Keys in Florida. However, my nanny went with her family in June 2022, so maybe you have something a little mixed up there. Eric's affair was the same year I quote-unquote moved out. The trust was created as well, and him looking into a divorce. I never actually moved out. I moved my clothes out one weekend to make Eric understand I'm not kidding about leaving him if he doesn't end things with Blank. I did this on a Thursday or Friday while he was out of town. I was home by Monday. I never stayed out another night or at another house. Eric and I figured things out like most couples do. Blank was her name. He changed her name in his phone so I wouldn't know about it. And honestly, we worked things out. And after that, I never went through his phone again to see if he changed it back. But you have his phone and you can check. Eric and I went to counseling in Camas. We only went about 4 times maybe. It wasn't for us. Blank and Blank are the same person, as I'm assuming you know that. LOL. I'm also assuming Blank told Detective Woody her husband got a call from him and gave all this information, LOL, yet he didn't ever go in and talk to the detectives. Ironic how these things work. Mental health, yes. I got postpartum after my second child in 2014. Yes, I took medication for it. No, Eric and I did not have financial problems ever. Yes, Eric made more money than me. Do you make more money than your wives? Have I ever been financially reliant on Eric in the last 5 years? Absolutely not. Eric did not want me working because 1, his first wife cheated on him with a guy at work. 2 is completely redacted from the document. 3, Eric wanted us to live the typical conservative life where the man takes care of his family and the wife is a homemaker, wife, mom, and that's it. That is not my personality and not the way I was raised. I am very independent. Even when I stayed at home with my kids the first few years, I was in grad school for years because I wanted to be more and do more than a homemaker, and I did. And when I did, I started all my businesses. It took some adjusting, but Eric and I were fine with it. We hired a nanny and everything worked out. My nanny moved out because she was engaged and she and her fiance were moving in together. That was always supposed to be temporary. She's worked full-time for Eric and I for years prior to his death. If anyone can tell you about our marriage, it's her. She lived with us. Feel free to call her. Blank has already submitted her phone records to you to prove that your toll is incorrect. Blank will also be submitting hers over to you guys today or tomorrow. I am working on getting mine. However, Eric's business partner is not being cooperative, but you can call and ask him for them and he would probably give them to you. Here's his number. I know what time I went to bed that night. There is no hole, quote unquote, in my story. Hopefully, after receiving 4 phone records, you guys can see this too. Happy to clarify or provide anything else you may need. I just want this over. I just want our lives back and to move on and grieve and mourn my husband without looking over my shoulder constantly for you guys or the idiotic private investigator or the Richins family. Whatever I can do to help close this out, just ask. I'll give to you or tell you whatever you want to know! Exclamation. And please check with the lab about the gummies. P.S. Chad, I hear you also know our good friends. Their son and my son play on the same soccer team. When Eric passed, he took over the coaching. You guys could even ask them if you feel necessary. Kouri Richins. Now, the detectives would respond to Kouri. In particular, the detective Chad Hoffmeyer, whom she addressed by first name and said they had friends in common, he responded, and let's get into his response. Detective Hoffmeyer responded that same day, April 19th. Thanks for the clarification, Kouri! Exclamation. I don't know that it matters either, but I appreciate the communication. Some considered that email to be a bit disparaging towards Eric, mentioning extramarital affairs, claiming that he didn't want her to work, and even the part about her describing her exotic vacations. According to TotalNews.com, when Kouri wrote that email April 19th, almost 1 month exactly after Eric's death, that is the point authorities began to determine that the mother of 3 was the prime suspect in the case. And those exotic trips that she described could have possibly hurt her and made her appear as a flight risk to the court, in my opinion. Now, about those exotic trips, in the email, if you notice, Kouri referred to 2 trips in 2022 that she had made. However, later on in the letter, she went on to say how she took her mom in 2022 as well. So that is 3 trips, exotic trips that she took. And she tried to make it seem like she just took 2 trips, in my opinion, and then later on, just filibustering, she mentioned a 3rd exotic trip. Leave a comment below if that makes sense. Kouri explained how traveling abroad was nothing special for the family, so going to Mexico every year, sometimes twice, was no big deal for her. With all of her efforts to throw the detectives off of her trail, Kouri was now the primary suspect just 1 month after her husband's death. Then, exactly almost a year after his death, she wrote a book. So it seems like the book could be a bit of a money grab, knowing that she was taken out of the will, taken off of the trust. The book may not have been as sincere as we think because she could have had other motives. Now, Kouri, whose book was published on March 5th, went on a grand Sympathy tour. She did lots of interviews, even appeared on the local news, and the detectives were also watching. While Kouri was on her Sympathy tour, it was short-lived. Just 2 months later, May 8th, she was arrested for the murder of Eric Richins. Kouri made national headlines as a cold killer. However, just 2 months before, she was being presented as a local grieving mother, which is partially why she wanted a change of venue. Kouri felt that the news was so big in her little town that no one escaped it. So what do you think? Does Kouri have a chance at a fair trial, or do you think she should be moved to a new venue? I have a comment from a subscriber. Shout out to you, Locke. I'll share it with you now. Watching in Utah, and yeah, she actually sort of has a point because everyone here is aware of the case and think that she's guilty. It's been all over the local news here for 2 years. That doesn't mean they need to move the venues though. They just have to find jurors who are as impartial and unbiased as possible. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. A source directly in Utah. Shout out to you, Locke. Thank you. I appreciate you for tuning in and commenting, giving us that information, letting us know that Kouri is definitely heavily in the rotation on the news cycle. However, we heard the judge explain in our last video how there could be jurors pulled in from other cities surrounding where she is now. Evidence revealed that Kouri asked multiple people for fentanyl before Eric's death. Throughout the case, prosecutors have actually claimed that she obtained the fentanyl from an acquaintance later identified as her housekeeper, Carmen. During the preliminary hearing, a detective testified to speaking with Carmen several times, and it was determined that Carmen was the person that procured the opiate for Richins and the counterfeit fentanyl pills. So the pills that she gave Eric weren't even prescribed real pills. She gave him 20 counterfeit pills, allegedly. What's really disturbing is people die from one fake fentanyl pill, and to think that he was administered 20 is sadistic. And that's to say the least. Outside of her trusty housekeeper Carmen, unsealed search warrants revealed that Kouri even asked her handyman to help her get the fentanyl pills weeks before her husband Eric's death. Kouri and the handyman had text messages and all sorts of evidence between the two. When the detectives interviewed the man earlier that year, he told them that Richards had asked him to get the fentanyl and propofol for her. Not only did the handyman allegedly show the police the text messages, he sent copies to those detectives on their phones. Now, it was never made clear if him procuring the drugs ever happened, only noting that Richins asked him to do it. The handyman was in a tragic, fatal car accident shortly after meeting with the detectives. However, his phone is in the custody of the city police as a part of a separate investigation. The prosecutors have already asked for the cell phone to be used as evidence, and they noted that the officials, they agreed they will release the phone, they just need a warrant. I wonder if Kouri still has a relationship with her 3 boys. Being is it that they are with Eric's sisters, whom she despises. I wonder if she's able to contact them. We saw that prisoners' rights are a little complicated, especially if they have violent crimes. So I wonder if they're required to allow her to communicate, or if they're nice enough to let her communicate, or if she just, for the past few years, haven't talked to her sons. Another search warrant revealed that the detectives were looking for additional journals or written recordings made by Kouri that were hidden somewhere inside of the Richins home. Now, Eric's sisters, who are in control of his trust, they let the detectives come in to find those recordings or additional journals. Where they heard about the journals were on the wiretapped prison calls while Kouri was talking to her mom. Her mother, Lisa Darden, whose partner also passed away from an overdose of pills. The partner was a woman with whom she was having a romantic relationship with and lived with. According to documents and detectives, the mother was never charged. She was suspected, and she's also suspected in helping Kouri with her quote-unquote grieving process. We don't know where Kouri got her scandalous ways from, but the prosecutor said that Kouri took out a $250,000 home equity line of credit and spent it. She stole about $134,000 from Eric's business. She also withdrew $100,000 from his bank accounts and spent more than $30,000 with his credit cards. As you can imagine, when Eric found out, he was livid. He learned about his wife's secret financial decisions in about September 2020. He immediately met with a divorce lawyer and estate planner, and according to documents, Kouri reportedly agreed to pay her husband back when he confronted her about the missing money. But it didn't end there. Before Eric's passing, when he met with the estate planner and the divorce attorney, he also changed his life insurance policy. Kouri secretly went behind his back and tried to name herself the beneficiary of that policy, but was caught, and Eric reversed the move, adding back his sister to the plan, and Kouri never knew a thing. So upon Eric's death, Kouri thought she had sneakily added herself as the beneficiary. Kouri is currently even behind bars fighting for Eric's $3.6 million estate. She still wants Eric's money. Eric allegedly told his sister that if anything happened to him, she would be to blame, and that's a quote. The murdered husband also had reason to believe Kouri was having an affair, which we found true through her letter, Walk the Dog, when she tried to tell her mother to reach out to her significant other. But she said everything had to be in secret because she didn't want anyone to discover the extramarital affair. His name was Lotto, Lotto. In the Walk the Dog letter, Kouri instructed her mother to persuade Lotto into getting the home equity line out on his own home, which she said was probably worth $1 million. And if he wanted to help her, then that's what he needed to do, because she also needed to save her mother's house and her best friend Chelsea's. Kouri even told the detectives that she and her husband had been celebrating plans that night, plans to purchase a $2 million home. The home was going to be a project for Kouri. However, Eric had expressed several times that he did not want to purchase the property. The couple had allegedly even argued about it in the past. The police later learned that Kouri had placed 2 $900 orders for fentanyl. That's a lot of drugs. It sounds like a lot of drugs. From a drug dealer acting as an informant on the case. And I think that informant was Carmen, the housekeeper. Don't forget to let us know where you're watching from down in the comments. And big shout out to all my people in Utah who have been down in the comments keeping us updated on local news. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye. Oh, don't forget to hit the like button.